Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel Skinny on Carbs. My name is Andrea, and on this channel I use my background in biology, naturopathic medicine, and histopathology to help you live the life that you dream of and deserve. Okay, so what are we going to talk about in this video? In this video we're going to talk about all the macros. Okay, we're going to talk about all the calorie containing nutrients. That's what we're going to discuss in this video. Okay, and what you guys are really interested in, right? For those of you that are trying to lose weight, that are trying to lean up, all right? What you're trying to do is you're trying to lose fat and you're not trying to lose muscle, okay? And I discussed in another video, a previous video I did, how you don't lose muscle while consuming carbs. That's not a thing. You don't have to worry about that, okay? I talked about it in another video, but if I figure out how to link things, I'll link it, okay? But if not, just, it's the video right before this one. All right, so let's talk about those macros. We've got 3 macros, right? Okay, and these are the calorie containing foods. We've got protein, we've got carbs, and we've got fats, all right? Now, the thing that all 3 of those have in common, 1, they're calorie containing. 2, they all contain a nice amount of carbon atoms, okay? And that's very important because carbon is what your mitochondria wants. It doesn't care. It won't take anything else. It will only take the carbon and shuffle it through that electron transport chain that we all have heard so much about to produce the very prized ATP that we all hear so much about as well. Okay, so your body can use carbs to do this. It can figure out a way to get it from fats, and it can figure out a way to get it from protein, right? So if that's the case, then it really shouldn't matter which one we eat, right? Because we can make energy from any one of those. Well, let's take a look at it. Okay, so what is a fat? What is a protein? And what is a carbohydrate? Okay, so I'm going to change the terminology a little bit. We're going to call it carbs, and we're going to call them amino acids because that's really what we're talking about when we talk about protein. And we're going to talk about fatty acids because that's what we're talking about when we're talking about fats, okay? Those are the building blocks of those macros, okay? Amino acids, building block for protein, fatty acid, building blocks for fats, and carbs, simple sugars for carbohydrates, really. So we should just change that to sugars, okay? Okay, so carbohydrates is basically carbon that's hydrated with hydrogen and oxygen, okay? And the reason it's hydrated is because that hydrogen to oxygen ratio usually comes in the 2-to-1 ratio, which is very similar to water molecule, which is H2O, okay? So that's why they call it carbohydrate. It's carbon that's hydrated with hydrogen and oxygen, okay? Then you have amino acids, or actually let's talk about the fatty acids. Then you've got fatty acids. So fats, it's just a composite of fatty acids, and a fatty acid is really it's a carbon molecule as well, okay, and it contains a carboxylic acid group, okay. So it's an acid molecule, fatty acid, okay. An amino acid is an acid molecule as well, and it's really it has a carboxylic acid group, it has a nitrogenous group, and it has an amine group, okay, or an amino group. And the protein is the most unique one out of all 3 because the protein is the only one that has nitrogen in the molecule, okay. So that's what makes it a little bit different from the other, well, very different from the other 2. Okay, so I just told you about the molecules, right? Now, in the previous video, I spoke to you about why you're not going to waste away your muscles if you choose simple sugars as your preferred fuel source, okay? And the long and short of why you don't lose your muscles is because your body is going to take the simple sugars first, okay? And in this video, we're going to talk about why it does that, okay? So let's look at, in order to get a carbon or to get energy out of, let's go with the amino acid first. So if your body wants to get energy out of an amino acid, right? An amino acid cannot be shuffled directly into the electron transport chain. It can't go directly into the mitochondria and go into that transport chain system. So what has to happen is your liver primarily via gluconeogenic pathways has to take that amino acid and it has to convert it into a glucose molecule and then push it into that electron transport chain. Okay, now your body doesn't want to do that because that's an investment of energy right out the gate. Okay, so before you can even use the stupid thing for energy, I don't want to say stupid, it's not stupid, but before you can even use it for energy, you've got to invest energy, right? And not only do you have to invest energy, but there's toxic byproduct from that. And what's the toxic byproduct that I'm talking about? Remember I told you that the amino acid is unique in the sense that it has nitrogen in it? Well, it produced nitrogenous waste, okay? And the nitrogenous waste is in the form of urea. And urea is very toxic to the body, okay? You need very small amounts of it, but not too much. And so you have a whole system, right, in the kidneys that's designed to flush the urea out of your system. That's what urine is, okay? Urine is mostly water and urea. So you have a whole system down there that's dedicated to getting that toxin out. So it produces a toxic byproduct, okay? And it's an investment of energy up front. So that means it's very inefficient. So that's not going to be the first thing that your body uses in order to get fuel. It's not. It's actually going to be the second thing that your body uses to get fuel. Okay. So now that leaves us with the carbs and the fats. All right. So can you shuffle fat into the electron transport chain directly? Well, yes and no. Okay, so some cells can take fat directly or fatty acids directly and oxidize it via beta oxidation to make ATP. Okay, some cells can do that. However, not all cells can do that. Okay, so for instance, your brain can't do it. Your brain can't take fatty acids up directly into the electron transport chain or into the mitochondria to make fuel. It just can't do it. It has to use glucose, okay? And in some cases it uses fructose, but that's for another conversation. All right, so your brain can't do it, okay? Your heart can do it. As a matter of fact, your heart loves fat, but your brain can't, all right? So let's just leave that to the side for now. Let's talk about the cells that can take it up. The cells that can take it up directly into the mitochondria and into the electron transport chain. Will it do it? No, it won't. And here's why. It's still slow. It's too slow. The glycolytic pathway is still a faster pathway. And that I remember when I was studying biology in school, I remember learning that, you get 2 ATPs for one fat, and so you get more ATP for fat. And I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking to myself, so that means fat should be the clear winner here, but it's kind of not, okay? And the reason it's not is for 2 reasons. One, it's still slower than the glycolytic pathway, so it's not a nice, readily fast form of energy. And 2, it also produces a toxic byproduct, okay? So let's go back to the cells that can't use fatty acids, all right? The cells that can't use fatty acids, obviously they're going to prefer simple sugars, just like the cells because even the cells that can use the fatty acids are preferring the sugars because it prefers to use the glycolytic pathways because it's just faster, okay? So what about the ones that can't use the fat? Well, in order for those cells to use fat as fuel, you have to ignite a system sort of similar to the gluconeogenic pathways in the sense that you have to convert the molecule into something else that's usable. And that usable thing is called ketones or ketone bodies, okay? Now, it takes a while to make those ketones or ketone bodies. It takes days of no fuel source coming in or very low carbs coming in, okay? It takes a while. It takes about 3 days before your brain can actually take up ketone bodies, about 72 hours of no nutrition coming in. All right. So that's another huge reason why it's a myth to think that you're going to force yourself into being some fat burning machine. All right. Because you need a very long time without nutrition in order to get that system going. Because remember what I said, your brain can't just take fatty acids and use it for fuel. So your body's not going to do that first. Okay. Your brain is very picky. All right. It's in your liver's best interest to cater to the brain, because if the brain is gone, everybody else is gone too. So your liver is not going to F around. All right. So what your liver is going to do is your liver is going to, I explained it in the other video a little bit, but this is why. Okay. The reason why it has to do this, the reason why it's not going for fat first as fuel, is because your brain and other systems can't use it as fuel, as fatty acids directly as fuel. So it has to convert it into ketone bodies, and it takes 3 days to do that. It takes 3 days to do that without any nutrition coming in. All right. You can't afford that. So instead of doing that, what your body is going to do is it's going to convert your protein into sugars via the gluconeogenic pathways first, in order to keep feeding the brain. It has to keep feeding the brain. All right. So it's going to do that first. And then if you continue to not give it the nutrients that it needs, aka the carbs, then it's going to have to say, okay, you know what? Screw it. Oh man, I gotta try to do something here. Let's convert these ketones, right? Let's convert this fat into ketones. Somebody's calling. Let's get that out of the way. Let's get this fat into ketones, right? And let's get this thing into the brain. And for some reason, everybody thinks that's a great thing. But the problem with that is similar to the gluconeogenic pathways, is you're producing a toxin as well, right? And the toxic byproduct is acetone. Nail polish breath, or acetone, keto breath, they call it keto breath. It's a real thing. Like in people that are really doing keto, okay? I'm not talking about carnivore. Carnivore is not keto, because you're taking in a bunch of protein. And I said already that the body is going to use sugars first, because the brain is picky. The brain wants sugar. So the body is going to, if it has a source of protein that it can create sugars from, it's going to do that first. It's not going to take the fat first, okay? So, you've got a toxic byproduct with the fat oxidation, and you've got a toxic byproduct with the amino acid oxidation. There's no toxic byproduct with the carbohydrate oxidation. It doesn't, there's just carbon dioxide, water. No toxic byproducts at all. It's faster. No toxic byproducts, no middleman, so no upfront investment of energy. Carbohydrates are the clear winner here, okay? You're not going to, trying to force yourself to be a fat burner is like really pushing your body uphill for no reason. You don't have to do it, all right? So then the question becomes, then how in the hell do we actually burn fat? How do people like me not get fat eating carbs? If I'm telling you your body doesn't want to take fat first as fuel, then what's happening to my fat? How come I'm not fat? I should be sitting in fat. Well, I think maybe about a year or two ago, I can't remember how long ago, I made a video discussing how it's a myth to think that the way to get rid of fat is to burn it for fuel. Okay, that's not really the way you get rid of fat. You have other, nobody ever talks about this, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to share this secret with you, okay? You have other ways of oxidizing fat that doesn't involve getting fuel, okay? So you have other intracellular components in your cell that oxidizes fat, not for fuel, okay? I want you to hear that. You have other intracellular components in your cells, intracellular in your cells, that oxidizes fat that has nothing to do with the mitochondria. It's not burning fat for fuel. Everybody thinks that the only way to get rid of fat is to burn it for fuel. You have other things that burn fat or oxidize fat. You have peroxisomes, you have lysosomes, you have smooth endoplasmic reticulum in the cell. All three of those things are oxidizing fats. They are fat oxidizers. Those are your primary fat oxidizers, not the mitochondria. The mitochondria is not the primary fat oxidizer. It's primarily a carbohydrate machine. It doesn't want the fat right off the rip. The glycolytic pathway is the pathway of that it prefers. The main pathways are those other fat oxidation pathways in the cell, okay? Not the other way around. And the thing that those three components have in common is that they are detox pathways. Okay, those are all detox pathways. So the reason that the reason why your cells shuffle fat towards oxidation via those pathways is to detox it. It's to get those xenobiotic compounds. That's primarily why it's doing it. It wants to snatch those xenobiotic compounds, aka environmental toxin, and it needs to detox them. Okay? So those are your primary fat oxidation pathways, not burning fat for fuel. This is a myth, okay? And I'm not saying that your body doesn't ever burn fat for fuel. I'm just saying it's not the primary source. There is one organ in the body that really likes fat for fuel, and that's your heart, okay? And it burns fat for fuel mostly at rest. Believe it or not, not when you're pounding the exercise or doing any of that. And that's where all that zone 2 cardio stuff is coming from, because they're just now, starting to talk about how, you burn more fat at rest. And the way you actually burn more fat at rest, and I'm talking about burning fat for fuel now, okay? So the way you burn more fat for fuel is at rest via the heart. That's the only system, or that's the only organ in the body that actually likes fat for fuel, okay? Every other cell in the body, and I'm not saying it doesn't burn sugar. It does burn sugar, obviously. But every other cell in the body prefers sugar. It prefers sugar. Fat oxidation does not mean it has to be fuel source. Fat oxidation usually means detoxing, because when your body is trying to spare you from all these toxins, it shoves it into fat. Okay, fat is the best inert molecule or cell to stuff toxins into. Okay, so I just wanted to let you guys know this actual secret to burning fat is not to burn it for fuel, is not to force yourself into being a fat burning machine. It's to actually allow your real fat oxidation processes in the cell to take place. So what you have to be looking at now is you need to look towards your detox pathways, okay? Which means you need to love on your lymphatic system. All right, and you have to supply your cells with the fuel that you need. You don't want to trip it up. You don't want to trip it up and try to turn it into gluconeogenic pathways and ketone bodies. You don't want to do that, okay? Because you're causing yourself more harm than good. So love on your carbs. That's the skinny on how to burn fat without trying to force yourself into being a fat burning machine. All right, I hope you guys found something useful in this video. If you did, like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, do whatever you need to do, but don't try to force yourself into being a fat burning machine. I've never done that, and I am not fat. All right, peace.